Welcome to your very first packet tracer activity. I'm Tamara Lipscomb and I am so excited to guide you through this first activity. I'm in the Cisco Networking Academy at the moment, and so what you'll do is you'll download your packet tracer file here, and also if you'd like, you can go ahead and download the worksheet that goes with it. I will show you that you don't actually need to download that worksheet unless you want to do it to make some notes on. I will not be having you turn in the worksheet, but it is nice if you like to have it maybe on a separate screen or what have you. But let's just see how this works and you can find what works best for you. So right here, you'll see I have already downloaded and opened up my packet tracer activity. What I want you to do when you're working on packet tracer, make sure you go up to the top and click on Options, User Profile, and make sure you put your first and last name in that user profile for me. I have more than one student with the same first name, so please do make sure you put your first and last name as part of your user profile. And if you're not sure if you did it, it's easy to see as part of your file name up here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I am really excited to go through this with you. This is a 6-part lab, and 6 parts sound so scary, but they're so easy. So I'm going to read this particular lab to you and work through it with you. So if you'd like to pause this and open up your own packet tracer, feel free to do that. Okay, let's get going. So the background scenario here is that the network model in this packet tracer physical mode activity incorporates many of the technologies that you can master in the Cisco Networking Academy courses. Remember, this is the first course in a series of 3 that you'll take. It represents a simplified version of how a small to medium-sized business network might look. Okay, right now this may look scary to you, by the way, as we go through it, but realize you're going to have all the knowledge and tools that you need to feel very confident by the time we get done with this course. All right, so especially all 3 courses. Okay, so most of the devices in the Seward branch office and Warrenton data center are already deployed and configured. Okay, but you have just been hired to review the devices and networks that are deployed. It is not important that you understand everything. I want to emphasize that, okay? It is not important that you understand everything that you see and do in this activity, but when we're all finished, I want you to feel free to also explore the network on your own. So if you wish to proceed more systematically, which we're about to do, I want you to follow the steps below. Answer the questions to the best of your ability. Okay, it's really important because I am going to have you answer some questions in Canvas regarding this particular lab. Now, this activity right now is focusing on what we call physical mode. You're going to notice here in Packet Tracer, you've got 2 buttons up here, logical and physical, which you can just click those to see the difference if you'd like. Or if you want to learn those shortcut keys, you can use the shortcut keys that they list here. Shift L for logical view and Shift P for physical. And that makes it so simple. Just Shift L takes you there. Shift P takes you back to physical mode. So if you feel like you got lost or you messed something up, really quick and easy to go back. Okay, let's dive into part 1 of this exercise. In part 1, we are just going to simply do some investigation and learning about Packet Tracer. We are going to look at the icon bar that's at the bottom left corner. It has various categories of networking components, and you should see categories that correspond to things like network devices, end devices, and components. The 4th category with that little lightning bolt icon, that is connections, and it represents the networking media that's supported by Packet Tracer. Then the last 2 categories are miscellaneous and multi-user connections. So let's go take a look. I'm going to scroll my mouse down here to our different categories, and there is network devices. Next up, I'm just trying to hover so you can see end devices. Components, there's that lightning bolt they talked about with connections. And then we've got our miscellaneous and our multi-user, which we're not using multi-user, so we don't need to worry about that. Now, the first question here, let's go ahead and get to it. It says, what are the subcategories for networking devices? So again, hovering is always your friend. I'm going to go back to my networking devices. And I'm going to go down here. Oh, okay, my subcategories are routers, switches, hubs, wireless devices, security, and WAN emulation. You might want to go ahead and make a note of that. Again, this is how our labs will work. There'll be some things that you do in labs, and I'll just ask you some questions about what you did in the lab. I just want to assess the fact that you are able to follow these labs well. What I want to also emphasize is please read every piece of the directions carefully so that you are making sure that you complete everything 100%. Now, quickly, it's going to tell you this in the directions in a moment, but quickly, I want to show you when you're doing a packet tracer lab, at any time, you can click this check results button. Okay, I'm going to show you two things here. Check results, and over here is completion. I have not even started this lab yet, so my completion percentage is 0. I've done no work in this lab. If I check results, I'll see this screen, which doesn't tell me a whole lot. This activity is incomplete. Please try again. Well, what do I need to try again on? Most of your activities, this assessment items tab will be available to you. And when you click on it, you will see what you did or did not complete. A green check mark means you've completed it. A red X means that you've missed something. Okay, when you have checked your results, be very careful here. Don't click this X up here, but instead click the close button down here. That is going to allow you to come back into your lab, keep working to get that completion rate up and to get 100%. Okay, let's go ahead now. We've already done part 1, which was super easy. We investigated that bottom toolbar. Now we're not being graded on that part yet, so that's why we have 0% completion. Okay, let's move into part 2, investigate devices in a wiring closet. So if you went exploring, just make sure you return back to physical mode. In this case, we are still in physical mode. And again, remember, I can do that by using my hotkeys, or I can use these buttons up here to move back and forth between physical and logical. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to click Seward. Okay, this is Seward. We're going to click that. And then they're asking us to click on the branch office. Click the branch office. And then it says step C, click the branch office wiring closet. Click that. It's going to take just a moment. And then it says, notice that the wiring closet has a rack. Okay, this is your rack. It is labeled rack right here. A cable pegboard, that's right here. Okay, a table, which is down here, and a shelf. So that is the lay of our land, okay? Now, the rack contains devices that can be rack mounted. So if you zoom in on the rack, you can use the tool, the zoom tool if you want, but if you zoom in on this rack, you can see, let me see if I can zoom in on my rack. You can see that things are installed in the rack, okay? If you have a scroll wheel, you can use control in your scroll wheel to zoom in. Okay, so you can see that the devices are screwed in or mounted in the rack. Below the power distribution device, and notice when I zoomed in, you can really see what things are called. Here's my power distribution device. That you will find a router. Routers are used to connect different networks. So think about in your own home, if you have internet at home, you have a router. Your router could be wireless in the sense that maybe you're going through a cellular provider. You might have it wired through cable, say like Xfinity. You might have fiber to the home, but you have a router, and that's what connects your home network to a different network, and that is the network that your internet service provider is providing to you. Okay, so that's what routers do. They connect different networks. Now, below the routers are 2 switches. These switches provide wired connections to connect to other devices. So notice that the devices have a name assigned by the network administrator. What devices use a wired connection to connect to switch ALS2? Okay, so let me zoom out just a little bit so that I can get a better view here. But I know that that's my ALS2 right there. And I need to see what kind of wired connections are connected to ALS2. So here is my access point. That's one of those. Okay. I have a connection to ALS2 to the web server. this ALS2 to the web server. I have a connection to ALS1, couple connections. Okay, so make sure you look at all the connections that are connecting to your ALS2 switch. And again, you should have seen it connected to ALS1, the access point, and the web server. Now, in this particular exercise, I'm helping you out a lot because you're brand new. As you keep learning a little bit more, I'll expect that you'll be able to answer some of these questions more on your own. Now, the next step that we see here, let's see, we are on, okay, below the switches in the rack is a wireless access point named access point. Wireless access points use a wireless connection to connect to other devices. So we can switch to logical mode, we'll do that in a minute, and see which device is connected to the access point. But I just want you to make sure that you realize how you can find things. They're labeled, but you can also hover over them to see what they are. So they're asking us to switch to logical mode. Let me do that. That was Shift L is what I did. I'm in logical mode, and connected to this access point, we have laptop 1. So now it's asking me to go back to physical mode, and I am going to go ahead and do that. Now, they ask us to switch back, and it said you should be back in the branch office wiring closet where the device is connected to access point physically located. Where is the device connected to the access point physically located? So what is this? We know that laptop 1 is what's connected. Where is laptop 1 in here? So I may have to zoom in again if you're having trouble seeing that. But again, if you are, you can also hover over. Now I can see this says laptop 1 here, but I can also hover over it and you can see that the device name says laptop 1. There's also a laptop over here. This laptop is branch laptop. Okay, so we see both of those. Now let's move on to part 3. Now devices can be connected in a variety of ways. So for network connectivity, devices are typically connected using either a copper straight through cable or it could be done wirelessly. Now, when we're talking about management connectivity, those devices are typically connected using either a console cable or a USB cable. We are going to go exploring here in a moment to see what that all means. So in Packet Tracer, it's going to grade you on the rest of this activity. So we just went over how you check results and checking all those things. So I won't go over that again, but this is where we want to be very purposeful and careful. Okay, so part 3, step A, is where we start the grading process. Now, so part 3, step A, it says investigate the cable pegboard. Now we know our pegboard is over here, and on our pegboard we have 2 console cables. That's these blue cables. We have 10 copper straight through cables. That's these guys. Okay, and you can hover over. Okay, if you're not trusting, you can hover over to see what they are. And then you have 2 coax cables. Okay, let's see. Oh, sorry, 4 fiber cables. I was like, well, did they skip the fiber cables? Here's the fiber cables, 2 coax cables, and 2 USB cables. Notice that the cable representations in physical mode are more representative of their real world counterparts. Okay, so those look like cables. Like I bet you, if nothing else, you can recognize those USB cables on the end. When I switch over to logical view, we just see connections. We don't see the type of cable like we do in physical mode. Okay, so we see the difference there. Now we want to make sure that we are in physical mode, which we are, and we want to click on a copper straight through cable from the pegboard. So hover over, again, if you're unsure, and then once you click on it, you have selected that cable. Okay, now the cable is selected. Now, again, we're on step B here. So we've done that. Now we're on step C. It's asking us to float your mouse over the port on PC1 until you see Fast Ethernet 0 pop up. The other port on your PC is an RS-232 port, and that's what we use to connect a console cable. So right now, I'm going to go down to my PC and I'm going to hover over the ports. So once I hover over, I can see that that one says Fast Ethernet 0. and I'm going to hover over the other one and it says RS-232. So I know in this case, I need to connect to the fast Ethernet. So I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to hover over and click. Notice how it turned green. Green means I just made a connection. I just put that cable in, so to speak. Okay, so I am now connected to that. Now in step D, with the copper straight through cable still selected, we're going to click the fast Ethernet 0 port to connect the cable, which we just did, and it turned green. Okay, so that's the part we've already done. Now step E, connect the other end of the cable to ALS2 switch by clicking any empty fast Ethernet port. The cable should now be dangling between PC1 and ALS2. Now I'm going to show you something here, just because this may become important later. So I am on ALS2 and I'm going to click a port. Now you can see that my cable is connected. Now what if I had accidentally put that cable on the wrong port? Like maybe it told me a port, or maybe I put it on the wrong device. It's easy to correct this, and I want you to see how, because this is the part that frustrates students when they need to start all over. So if you click that cable again and you drag it, I'm not good at this, so forgive me, and you drag it back to your pegboard, look what happens. It hangs it back on the pegboard and you can start again. So again, I'm going to click my cable. I'm going to click on this fast Ethernet port. And hey, it takes a little patience, by the way. If you see how I'm hovering a minute, okay, it finally turned green. I didn't have it quite on the port. And now I'm going to come up here and make my connection, and I am connected. So just be patient. If you have any difficulty with this simulator, just be a little patient with yourself. Okay, let's see what step we are on now. So we do have that dangling between PC1 and ALS2. So now we're on step F. PC and laptops can also be connected to networking devices using a console cable or a USB cable. So this connection is what's providing that management access we talked about a moment ago. So now we're going to go ahead and click on a console cable from the cable pegboard. Console cables are generally blue. Okay, just for your knowledge, unless you've made it yourself or someone's made it, they are generally blue, so they're pretty easy to find. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my console cable. I've selected it, and now I am going to click on the RS-232 port on PC1. That's step G. So here's my RS-232 port. Okay, you notice it turned purple. That's how I knew I got it. Then I clicked it. And then I am going to, let's see, float my mouse over Edge Router and find the console port. So I just need to know which one is my Edge Router. And again, if I'm not sure, remember I can just hover over, or I can use my magnifying glass to catch that. So I'm going to just hover over and see which one. I know this is the web server. I was just waiting for it to pop up, and it did not. This is on my access point. Again, I can make it bigger. So here's my Edge router. I'm just going to make it bigger just so you can see it as well. So now I need to plug this in the console port, and see how when I hover over, that's an auxiliary. This is a console. I click it, and now I am connected. All right, so now let's see what we are on. Also, is telling you in the directions that you can also do a right click and inspect front, and that will also help you see things a little better, because you can really use the magnifying glass there to see a little bit better. But you can tell I am connected to the console port. All right, have to go down just a little bit so that I can see everything again. I have to zoom out. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to click the console port on the Edge router to connect. We just did that, sorry. The cable should now be dangling between PC1 and the console port. All right, so great, we're doing great. So I want to show you something. As we've been working, look what happened. We are now at a completion rate of 33%. Okay, so before, remember it said 0, so 33%. If I go over and check my results right now, and I go to my assessment tab, you can see that I have connected my console port. I have connected my fast Ethernet, and you can see that I've gotten points for that. What we haven't done yet, we haven't done the USB console connection, and we haven't done the backup router connection. So again, hit close, and now we're going to go back and finish this. So we are now on step 4. So install a backup router. So newer models of networking devices can be accessed through a USB port for management configuration. Thank goodness, okay? Because what's happened is older laptops all had RS-232 ports, and that's what a console cable used, was the RS-232 port. Now today, almost everybody is using USB. So again, newer laptops only have USB, so that's why this connection is important. So in part 4, step A, it says investigate the shelf. Okay, the shelf is over on your right. This includes an inventory of devices in the Seward branch office that are not currently installed. So we want to click and drag the backup router to an empty spot in the rack. Okay, so if you can't see, this says backup router. Again, you can use your magnifying glass to zoom in, or if you hover pretty well, there's your backup router. So it's asking us to put this in the rack. It didn't say where. We're going to put it right down here. And basically, just drop it when you get there, right? Okay, so there is your backup router. Now, step C, some devices are not automatically powered on when installed in the rack, so click Backup Router, inspect rear, find the power button, and turn it on, okay? Because otherwise, this will not work. So we're going to right-click, inspect rear, and find the power button. And there it is. There's our little rocker button. So we have turned it on, and we can close that. All right, so now we're at 66%. See how quick that works? All right, now let's see what else it says. Step D, on the cable pegboard, choose a USB cable, return to the rear view of the backup router and find the USB console port on the far left. Click the port to connect the USB cable. The port should now be highlighted green. So let's do that. We need a USB cable. I'm going to select that. I'm going to come over here and inspect the rear. I'm going to zoom in just so you can see. Here is the console port, right? So we want to plug that in right there. Did not let me do that. Hold on. There we go. Sorry about that. I must not have had that actually selected. But now I'm attached to the USB console port. And then it tells me to connect the other end of the USB cable to either of the USB ports on the laptop 1. The cable will not dangle like the other cables did to PC 1. So let me close this. And now I'm on laptop 1. And I'm going to see if I can zoom in, just so that you can have a better view. I know my USBs are here. So here's USB 0 and USB 1. It didn't indicate which port, so I'll just put it in this one. I will tell you, if it does indicate in the directions where something needs to be plugged in, you do have to make sure you're very precise, or you will be discounted in the grade. All right, so now we're at 83%, which is fantastic. Connect, and we did that. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is configure a host name. This is part 5, and really the last part we really have to worry about, but I will encourage you to do a little bit more. So what we're going to do is we're going to configure a host name. Network administrators typically assign a name to a networking device. We don't want all of our routers out there to be called router, and that's the default name. All of our switches to be called switch. It makes it impossible to know sometimes if we're on the right device, or we might get confused when we're doing some configuration changes. So always name your router or switch or whatever device with something that is a good convention for your organization. So on laptop 1, we are going to click on laptop 1, and then we're going to click on the desktop tab. Once we reach the desktop tab, we're going to click terminal, and we're going to notice that this configuration is already set up to connect. So these are the correct settings. Your bits per second is 9600. Your data bits are 8, parity none, stop bits 1, and flow control none. We're going to click OK. As you learn in networking, you'll just know 9600, 8N, 1, none, or N. You know, you'll learn that so quickly. So look, we are now on our router. Now, the first thing it asks is, would you like to enter initial configuration dialog? At this point, we're going to say no. We're going to do this manually. Okay, so we've pressed enter, and now you'll see it says press return to get started. Go ahead and press return. Notice that our router's name right now is just router. And this is what we're going to take care of. We don't want it to be called router. We want it to be called something else. And so, sorry about that. I just closed that up. There we go. Not closed it, but got off that window. I can click top if I need this to stay on top and not get buried under Windows again. So that's fine. All right. So on a Cisco device, you can also shortchange some of these commands. And what I mean by that is you can shorten the command. So the first command that they're going to teach you here is enable. You can either type enable or you can just type en and it will let you right in, okay? Enable. I'm going to type it as it's displayed because I want to make sure that it does not deduct any points. Configure terminal, it's the same thing. I could type config T and it would know what I want, or I can just type CONF, hit the tab button, and then start typing terminal, hit the tab button again, and it knows to finish that command. So configure terminal. And the next thing we're going to do is do a host name. At this point, you'll want to make notes on how to configure a host name because you'll do it frequently. So make sure you know the steps to configure a host name. Now in this case, we're going to call this edge underscore router underscore backup. Now, what I want to make sure that you realize at this point too is because this is an automatically graded item, if you don't do it precisely as they've asked you to do it, as far as capitalization and things, sometimes it can take off points or not realize you did something. So right there, I just changed my edge router name correctly, and now you notice my completion rate is 100%, which is awesome. Okay, so that's great. If you make a mistake, let's just say that I made a mistake, I can just reconfigure that host name. Okay, I can just do host name. I'm just going to change the host name just for you to see. Host name test. Okay, now I just dropped back down to 83%, right? Now look at this. I'm going to use my up arrow, and my up arrow remembers the commands I've already done. So it remembers that. So I'm just going to do that, put it back, and now I'm at 100%. So that's awesome. Now I'm going to go check results here in a moment, but before I do, I'm going to go ahead and take that top off of there. And the next thing we need to do is type end, and we can close this up. Okay, now they tell us to go ahead and close the laptop one window and return to the branch office wiring closet. Notice that the display name for the backup router did not change. Okay, so we changed the host name. The display name here on this device that they have here is backup router. So if we click that, I'm not good at clicking it apparently. There we go. Had to get it just right. And then we type or click the config tab. You'll see that the display name is backup router. The host name is edge router backup. That's because Packet Tracer maintains two names for a device, a display name and a host name. You'll just see that in Packet Tracer so that if you needed to, know what that device was, it's right there. We know that's our backup router. So I'll go ahead and close that window. Now, they are telling you at this point, you are free to go ahead and explore on your own, and I want you to do that. But before you do, I want to show you how to finish this up. Go ahead and hit check results. Look at this. Congratulations on completing this activity. And see how my name is here where I changed it earlier? And then the assessment tab. You see all those green check marks, so you know I did everything correctly. Now here's the part that I want to teach you right now. I will always have you upload your completed packet tracer, just a screenshot. Okay, I don't need the whole thing, but here's what, when it has an assessment tab, here's what you're going to do. You're going to use the snipping tool. Let me call that up. And to do that, if you've never used the snipping tool before, you'll just go down to your search window and start typing snip, and your snipping tool will come up. Now, this is a Windows thing. If you're on a Mac, you'll need to find a different item to use. But when you get your snipping screen up, it will look like this. And when you click New, you'll be able to actually put in this window what you want. Now you can click New and do that, or right here, this drop down, it's even easier. I want this entire window. I can just click that, and I'm sorry, I just sort of messed that. There we go. When I clicked new, it came up and it gave me the option to choose which window I wanted. So there we go. And you can see that it got my entire window. So that's what I want you to do. Again, you click new, and I know you didn't see this because it's on another screen, but it allows me to pick which screen I want. If you can notice that that's grayed out now, but now it's not, that's the screen I want. I'm going to click that. Now what you'll do here is you'll save that screenshot in a folder. Just make yourself a class folder. Save that screenshot so when I ask you to upload it, you'll have it. And the best way to do that, by the way, is just make sure that you call it by the lab name so that you'll know which one to upload. Okay. If you're doing it right away and you're not doing any other labs, it really doesn't matter. But make sure you save that, and then you will upload that as one piece of evidence that you did the lab inside Canvas. So if you have any trouble with that, please reach out to me. Otherwise, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit this close button, and I'm going to encourage you to do this last part on your own, which is explore the rest of the network. So, just do things like go to the logical network. They're telling you here that, let's see, in physical mode, navigate to other areas such as the data center and telework. So I don't know if we can see that here. Um, we'd have to go back. Oops, let's see. Uh, Wellington Data Center. I was trying to see where they wanted you to go. This will help me. Okay, well, here's my teleworker. I know that's what they wanted me to be. Here was teleworker home. And then, we can just, actually, this won't let me. Oh yeah, jump to location. It's been a minute since I've done this lab, but yeah, so then we can just jump to that location. And I did that up here, by the way, just with the little navigation tool. So you can jump around in the network and take a look, click on things. There's a laptop you could click on, just different things. Go explore, have fun with this, and then make sure that you complete the questions that are in Canvas and upload that screenshot, and you'll be all done with this assignment. So again, if you need help, please reach out to me. I am always happy to help. Have a great day.